We've all heard the word pawpaw. There's a song that perhaps you remember from childhood titled Way Down Yonder in the Pawpaw Patch. Or maybe you live in one of the cities or townships across the country named Pawpaw. Or maybe you've crossed the Pawpaw Creek in West Virginia or the Pawpaw River in Michigan. The name pawpaw isn't foreign, but the tree and the fruit it bears are something that not that many Americans are familiar with. Andrew Moore was one of those people, and after tasting the pawpaw fruit for the first time, he decided to investigate further.
When I was first introduced to the fruit, I had never heard of it, nothing about it, so I had a ton of questions. And when I tasted it, I thought it tasted wonderful. It has this cross between a banana and a mango flavor to it. And I just had so many questions. How did it get here? How had I not heard of it? And I wanted to find answers to those questions. And as I kept asking, I realized that it was a good story. I thought it was a good story, so I wanted to share that with others.
Moore does share it in his new book, Pawpaw, In Search of America's Forgotten Fruit.
The pawpaw is the largest edible fruit native to the United States. It's actually native to 26 eastern states in the country, including Ontario, Canada. And in the tree, hanging from the branch, it actually looks like a mango, a green mango. And when you slice it open, it has this vibrant green or yellow pulp. And when you taste it, like I said, it has this unusual tropical flavor that is unprecedented, really, in these American woods.
Moore says that the pawpaw belongs to the custard apple family, and that every other member of that family is a tropical fruit that grows in warm climates. Only the pawpaw made it up to the cooler northern regions, and it did so a long time ago.
The fossil record shows pawpaws dating perhaps as far back as 56 million years ago. Fossil records found in New Jersey and Mississippi. Diverse sites. The pawpaw family, as well as the pawpaw itself, are among the oldest trees in North America. And so it took a long time. When I call it a tropical plant that happens to grow in the temperate, I do that with poetic license. It's been here a very long time, and it was a retreat and return of glacial coverings of the continent, and a very long time that led the pawpaw to move from perhaps a more tropical region or climate to its current zones.
Glaciers and climate change evidently hardened the pawpaw to withstand the temperatures in the north, and the seeds of the tree were spread by the strange and very hungry animals that fed on it.
We also had different animals on the continent, mastodons, with various megafauna that the fruit evolved to be noticed by those animals and eaten whole, and then transplanted via their digestive tracts and moved around the country that way. So the first eaters of pawpaws weren't humans, it was these large mammals, and they were the primary dispersal agents for the fruit.
When humans did make their way to North America, they found that the pawpaw was not just good for eating, but had a variety of uses.
The Native Americans, various tribes, made greater use of the plants that grew wild in this continent than subsequent settlers did, for various reasons. And if a Native American tribe lived near pawpaws, they would eat it, undoubtedly. They ate it each year. But they also used the fiber of the tree's inner bark for cordage, for rope, for various purposes, including stringing fish or other types of nets. There's some citations from Kentucky even that state that pawpaw was used for loincloths and sandals and rugs and mats. They really put it to great use.
Moore says that Africans brought over to America as slaves used pawpaw and other wild fruits and nuts to supplement their often meager diets.
That's one thing that I found interesting when I began my research. If enslaved Africans were afforded the liberty to hunt or gather at all, in most cases that was probably a limited liberty, the pawpaw and other wild fruits and nuts like chestnuts or hickory nuts or even persimmons, the primary things that they would have been able to take from the forest. So each September as they ripened, if enslaved Africans had that liberty, they would have pulled those from the forest. African-American culinary historian Michael Twitty has reported to me that in his travels, he's found a few former slave cabins surrounded by pawpaws. To this day, the pawpaws are still surrounding the cabins. In many cases, the pawpaw had a dual purpose. It wasn't only a fruit that you could eat, but the fruit itself baited. It baited raccoons and possums and squirrels and other animals that would eat it in the night. And then those hunters and cooks would trap those animals, and those are the animals that would often wind up in pots for stew.
The pawpaw used to be relatively popular in our earlier history. Even in the not-so-distant past, Moore says there was an excitement about the fruit and the trees.
There were cultivars as early as 1905. There was a named pawpaw cultivar. And even in 1916, there was a contest to find the best pawpaws in America. And so there was a lot of trading and excitement over pawpaws around that period. And then for various reasons, that excitement sort of fell out of favor. And so a lot of those early named cultivars have faded.
Moore says that often you hear that they faded from popularity because they're not as easy to pack and ship as other fruits. But Moore thinks it's probably something else at work.
What's often said is it's just because the pawpaw has a short shelf life and it's difficult to transport. But that's the same for many other fruits, and people around the world have gotten around that and have figured out a way to make it a crop that's shared and eaten widely. In my research and talking to people, it just seems like we just haven't gotten around to the pawpaw. There's so many wild fruits in America, fruits and nuts and roots, and many of the things that we consider staples, even American diets, things like blueberries, as domesticated, cultivated crops, they're really young. The blueberry as a domesticated crop is really only 100 years. And so people have been experimenting with pawpaws for years, and I think it's just a matter of it's happening now. Things take time, and I think that the pawpaw's turn is coming.
As far as packing and shipping goes, other fruits are picked at the peak of ripeness and then flash frozen for transport, keeping all of the nutrients that they had when they were fresh. In fact, Moore says that the pawpaw is not only delicious, it's got a lot of the good things that nutritionists say we should be getting from the foods we eat.
We could probably call pawpaw a superfruit. The nutritional study has shown that, they're very high in potassium, niacin, lots of vitamins, and it's loaded with antioxidants, as are most fruits. There's only been one study done on pawpaw, which is illustrative of the newness of this fruit in terms of a food product. It hasn't been given the same attention that all the other fruits and vegetables have. We're waiting on more studies. The first study that was done included the peel of the fruit, and most people don't actually eat that peel. So there's still a lot to learn about the pawpaw, which I think is actually a neat and fun thing about it, is the fact that we're still discovering things about it.
One of those things is the fruit's versatility in cooking. It was featured on an episode of the Food Network show Chopped, and Moore himself was treated to an array of pawpaw dishes at a recent festival.
I've just returned from the Ohio Pawpaw Festival, where I was a judge at the Pawpaw Cook-Off. So I actually recently experienced a number of wonderful dishes prepared with pawpaws. I had a pawpaw creme brulee, a pawpaw gelato, a pawpaw ice cream, mixed drinks, cocktails, a pawpawcello, a hard pawpaw lemonade. Folks at this Ohio Festival submitted all kinds of wonderful dishes, and I was lucky enough to get to try some of those.
Moore says, however, that his favorite way to enjoy pawpaw is to spoon it out of the ripe fruit-like custard. If the pawpaw isn't found in grocery stores around the country, maybe the best place to find them is in the farmers' markets. Moore says that because of the shipping issues at the moment, pawpaw really lends itself to the trendy food movements that are so popular today.
There are a lot of people who are interested in a return to local cuisine, local foodways, and their food roots, everything from the slow food movement to the revival of heirloom fruits and vegetables, heritage crops. People are interested in these older American food traditions. It's a huge growing trend in America, and the pawpaw fits into that. It is a poster child for local foods. We talk about the difficulty of transporting a pawpaw. It fits right into that local food movement. It's something that can be grown and sold locally.
Finally, why should we care about the fate of this obscure fruit when we have plenty of other fruit, both familiar and exotic, that we can choose instead?
We may have gotten away from it over the past 100 years, but it was something we really cherished years ago. It was important enough that we named dozens of towns after pawpaw. There's a Pawpaw, Michigan, Pawpaw, Illinois, West Virginia, Kentucky. So it was something our ancestors really cherished and loved. And for people who are interested in connecting with those older food roots, the pawpaw is a good way to do that. And it tastes good, and we should eat good fruit, a diversity of fruits. That's something I enjoy. I enjoy this seasonal treat. Each September I can go out and pick this unusual fruit that nothing else like it grows in our climate here. So it's fun. It's a really fun thing.
To learn more about the pawpaw, its history, uses, and the availability of pawpaw trees that you can grow in your yard, pick up Andrew Moore's book, Pawpaw, available at stores and online at chelseagreen.com/pawpaw. Moore also invites listeners to read his blog at thepawpawbook.wordpress.com. For information about all of our guests, you can log on to our site at viewpointsonline.net. You can find archives of past programs there and on iTunes and Stitcher. Our show is written and produced by Pat Reuter. Our production directors are Sean Waldron, Reed Pence, and Nick Hofstra. I'm Marty Peterson.
Get your Plenty card at Exxon or Mobil and start earning points at lots of places.
So I get points for filling up at Exxon?
You sure do.
What about getting coffee at Mobil?
Points.
Streaming TV shows on Hulu?
Definitely.
Points on my AT&T wireless bill?
Yep.
Buying soap?
At Rite Aid.
Buying you a birthday present?
Points at Macy's.
Visiting your parents?
No. You get marriage points.
Oh.
Exxon and Mobil are the only fuel brands that are part of Plenty, the rewards program that lets you earn points at one place and use them at another. Join Plenty for free through a participating Exxon or Mobil station today. Terms and limitations apply. See plenty.com/partners for details.